In the winter of 1883, Rosa de la Cruz, 18, discovered that her worth had been measured in lashes and scorn, the echo of her father's cruelty reverberating within the cold, damp confines of the cellar. The leather strap whistled through the cabin air for the 17th time that evening, each strike a punctuation mark in the cruel ledger of her existence. Rosa huddled in the corner, arms wrapped tightly around her knees, her small frame trembling against the stone wall. Shadows flickered in the feeble light, painting her prison in dark hues. The scent of damp earth filled her nostrils, a suffocating reminder of the life she had been denied. "Useless girl!" Ramon's voice sliced through the silence, harsh and biting. "You bring nothing but shame to our name." Tears streamed down her cheeks, cold against her skin, mixing with the frustration and hopelessness that clung to her like a shroud. She shut her eyes tightly, attempting to block out the sound of her father's footsteps, the steady approach of a man who wielded power as a weapon. With every creak of the old wood above her, the dread pooled deep within her, threatening to drown her in despair. The cries for help that she had unleashed into the night echoed off the stone walls, yet the only response was the relentless wind howling outside, a cruel serenade to her suffering. Her heart beat frantically, drumming against her ribs, a revolt against the inevitability awaiting her. "Get up!" Ramon barked as the door flung open, spilling light into the small space and illuminating the starkness of her reality. With each step he took, the anticipation of sorrow tightened around her like a vice. "You're not as weak as you pretend to be." But weakness was all she had ever known, the sensation strangling her hope, robbing her of strength. And yet, deep within her, a flicker of rebellion ignited, one she had kept buried beneath layers of fear. Just as Ramon advanced, the gusts of wind outside howled louder, and Rosa's startled heart raced faster. She focused on that sound, on the wildness of the storm echoing her tumultuous thoughts. "I am not nothing," she whispered to herself, though the claim felt foreign on her tongue. "I am not to be broken." As her father reached for her, the blurred line of past memories and the ache of the present began to reel before her. Just as she prepared for another bout of torment, a sudden crash of thunder reverberated through the night, swiftly followed by her desperate cries, a haunting echo of a prayer for mercy. Little did she know, those cries pierced the silence of the mountains and reached the ears of Sebastian, a reclusive mountain man who lamented a world weighed down by pain. Sebastian had carved out a solitary existence in the rugged mountains, haunted by the memory of his wife, who had also suffered at the hands of a cruel man. Resentment boiled within him. Each cry, each lash that he remembered inflicted upon her, reminded him of the battles he had fought but lost. It stained the very air he breathed. With each echo of Rosa's pleas growing in urgency, his heart surged with a familiar sense of urgency, a drive to intervene, to do something, anything. As the winds howled like spirits of the fallen, Sebastian felt an unfamiliar pull toward those desperate cries. He had acclimatized to the silence of his isolation, yet tonight, the echoes broke through the walls he had erected around himself. Gathering his coat, he stepped outside, the cold biting through his layers, the darkness wrapping around him like a shroud. "Who calls out in such pain?" he muttered to the night, the crunch of snow beneath his heavy boots a stark contrast to the turmoil flickering within him. With each passing moment, the cries grew louder, more insistent, igniting a flame of fierce determination inside him. He had turned his back on the world and its injustices, but within Rosa's desperate voice lay a flicker of shared strength. It propelled him forward, daring him to act against the chains of hopelessness and despair binding them both. Arriving at the cabin, his heart thudded with urgency. Every inhalation was punctuated by the ache of memories lost. He recognized her pain as his own. Breaching the threshold of the door, he was hit with the scent of a damp prison, a realm of despair. With a forceful shove, the door creaked open, and he stepped inside, his eyes zeroing in on Rosa, chained and trembling. The sight shattered his heart. Devastation coursed through him like a flood of ice water. "You're safe now," he whispered soothingly, as if the very mountains bore witness to his vows of protection. His voice brushed against the storm of her terror like a gentle tide. At first, she looked at him with disbelief, wide-eyed, fearful. He could see the remnants of hope battling against the shadows of her pain. As he knelt beside her, Sebastian took her trembling hands in his own, an act of defiance against the darkness that had bound her. Every clank of the chains echoed like a death knell for the world she had known, a world filled with pain. He gripped the chains firmly, determination illuminating his features. "We'll get you out of this," he promised, the conviction in his voice unwavering. With each click of the lock falling away, a weight lifted, the chains of her torment falling silent. The moment those chains fell, a subtle shift vibrated through the air, mingling with the crisp mountain breeze that seeped in through the door, tasting of freedom, of hope. The tears streaming down Rosa's cheeks spoke of a different story, one of shattering despair giving way to the tender fingers of release and promise. "Thank you," she breathed, her voice a whisper choked with emotion, with the fragile beginnings of trust taking root. "Together," Sebastian said, a quiet strength threading through his words. They exchanged glances, both wary of what lay ahead, yet bound by this newfound alliance. In that dim cabin, amidst the howling wind outside, a quiet vow was formed, a shared journey toward healing. The air between them held a charged promise, growing palpable as they stepped into the unknown together. The winter air vibrated with the scent of pine and fresh beginnings, an aroma unheard of in the confines of her past. The darkness that had enveloped her began to recede like the storm clouds, and for the first time in a long while, Rosa felt a spark of light ignite within. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could reclaim her life, woven into the fabric of a greater story, unfolding amidst the rugged mountain backdrop. She could become the woman she was always meant to be, strong, defiant, and free to explore the life that had been stolen from her. As they left the cabin that night, the silhouette of two souls, once lost in their individual struggles, now emerged from the shadows, hand in hand, stepping boldly into a future radiant with promise. Each heartbeat echoed a reminder of resilience, a testament to life featuring cracks where light shines through, illuminating dark pathways toward hope and healing. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, yet linked by the threads of solidarity and understanding. Together they ventured forth into the wilderness, where the mountains would bear witness to the seeds of freedom taking root within their intertwined lives, and a bond forged in struggle and rebirth, blossoming in the dawn of possibility. Under the vast expanse of the Colorado sky, the wind whistled through the pines, carrying with it snippets of a budding dawn. Rosa and Sebastian walked side by side, each step forward a defiance against the weight of their pasts. Rosa's heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration, the cold morning air sharpening her senses. She looked up at Sebastian, the mountain man who had pulled her from the jaws of suffering, and studied his rugged outline silhouetted against the rising sun. He seemed to embody the strength and resilience of the mountains around them, tall, weathered, and capable of withstanding the harshest storms. After a silent day's trek, they arrived at Sebastian's cabin, nestled among the stout evergreens and glowing with warmth. It stood as a sturdy testament to his endurance, crafted from the very trees that surrounded them, a sanctuary built in the heart of the wilderness. The wood glistened with dew, exuding a fresh smell that resonated with Rosa's burgeoning hope. As she stepped inside, her senses ignited. The cabin was modest yet comforting, filled with the earthy aroma of dried herbs and a hint of wood smoke. Sunlight filtered through the small window, casting golden rays across a well-worn table and a hearth that held the remnants of a small fire, logs arranged neatly beside it. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Rosa allowed herself to breathe deeply, feeling a sense of safety envelop her like a warm blanket. "Make yourself at home," Sebastian said, his voice soft yet reassuring as he pulled off his heavy coat and hung it by the door. He moved with the grace of a man accustomed to the rough terrain, each action deliberate and measured, possessing a quiet confidence that settled the air around them. Rosa nodded, looking around the cabin with wide eyes. "It's lovely," she whispered, the sheer joy of the moment spilling over her lips. Sebastian chuckled lightly, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "It hardly compares to the splendor of nature outside. You'll see, each season here has its beauty." She smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for bringing me here," she said, the words tumbling out with earnestness. I can't believe I'm free." Sebastian's expression shifted, a brief flash of remembrance crossing his face. "Freedom sounds sweet, but it comes at a price. Don't lose sight of that." He moved to the hearth, where he began to stoke the embers of the fire, coaxing it back to life. "We have much to do to fortify this freedom." Rosa watched him work, her admiration growing. He was more than just a mountain man. He was a guardian, a protector, the first person who had treated her with kindness when all she had known was cruelty. As he tended to the fire, she felt a warmth blossom in her chest, one that ignited not just from the flames but from the connection blossoming between them. Was it possible that kindness could flourish even in the aftermath of despair? Sebastian turned to her, a thoughtful expression settling over his rugged features. You'll want to start working on your strength. The mountains can be unforgiving, and the tasks I have in mind require a capable hand. What sort of tasks? She asked, intrigue piquing her curiosity. Every day will involve something different, he replied, a hint of a grin playing at his lips. Chopping wood for the fire, tending to the few animals I keep, and learning how to navigate the wilderness. Each task he mentioned sounded foreign yet tantalizing. Learning could wait. First, she needed to ground herself in this new life, to explore it without the weight of her past pressing on her shoulders. She felt a rush of excitement, the thought of building herself, literally and figuratively, on her own 2 feet. As the fire crackled to life, casting a golden hue over the cabin, Sebastian motioned for her to sit at the table. Let's have something to eat first. You'll need your strength. While he prepared a simple meal of hearty bread and huckleberry jam, Rosa glanced around, noticing the little details that made this place a home. A handwritten book lay open on the corner of the table, pages filled with sketches of plants and animals, notes jotted in the margins, a testament to someone who had poured their heart into understanding the world around them. There were also small trinkets, a carved bear made from wood, and feathers strung together as a talisman, reflecting a quiet homage to nature's magnificence. Did you carve this? Rosa asked, pointing to the bear. Sebastian paused, looking over at her before nodding with a hint of pride in his eyes. It was a way to remember my wife, he admitted, turning back to the meal preparations. She had a spirit that resonated with the mountains. I try to capture a piece of that whenever I can. Her voice softened as she regarded him. What was she like? He sighed, wiping his hands on a cloth before sitting across from her. Her laughter was like the song of the creek in spring. She had a gift for making beauty out of the mundane, and she taught me how to see things differently, how to appreciate the little moments. Rosa absorbed each word, feeling the weight of both joy and loss clinging to his voice, an undeniable bond between them, stitched through shared pain. There was an understanding that blossomed in that warmth, a kindred spirit awakening as they both sat there, cloaked in their past yet poised for the future. Once they finished their meal, Sebastian gathered the dishes and started to clean up. Later, we will head out to get some firewood. I'll show you how to wield an axe. It's quite liberating, he said, a playful smile breaking through the somberness. Rosa chewed her lip. What if I'm not strong enough? He paused, meeting her gaze firmly but kindly. Strength isn't just about muscle. It's about perseverance, and I see that spark within you. We'll build your confidence together. She felt the warmth of his words seep into her spine, strengthening her resolve. I want that. I want to learn. Good, he said, his tone lightening, the previous heaviness lifting slightly. In the meantime, let's prepare the outside. First, I want you to get accustomed to the area. The mountains have their manners, and you'll want to know them well. Sebastian finished cleaning up before stepping towards the door, opening it wide to let in the crisp afternoon air, filled with the earthy scent of pine. Time to embrace the wild. Rosa followed him outside, and the expanse of the mountains opened before her eyes, a panoramic view bursting with life, the colors vibrant against the backdrop of the snow-capped peaks. The sun's rays glinted against the frost-laden grass, creating a sparkling jewel-like effect. She felt the air shift in her lungs, revitalizing her with the unfiltered essence of nature. You see that ridge? Sebastian pointed with a practiced hand. We'll go there first for firewood. But remember your steps. Stay close, and watch your footing. The terrain can be treacherous. They began their trek towards the ridge, and with each step, Rosa felt a weight lifting. The echo of her father's voice faded into the distance. She was no longer labeled. She was simply Rosa, a woman forging her path anew. A feeling of awe washed over her as they navigated through the tall pines, their trunks towering over her, their branches waving gently as if welcoming her into their embrace. As they reached the ridge, the view stole her breath away. A sprawling forest that seemed to stretch into infinity, a carpet of green under the bright blue sky, speckles of wildflowers peeking through the earth, dancing in the gentle breeze. It felt like magic, an untamed beauty that pulled at her spirit, awakening her senses in a way that had long been dormant. Isn't it beautiful? Sebastian's voice was laced with reverence, breaking into her moment of reflection. It's incredible, she replied, absorbing the vibrant colors and the richness of life all around her. For the first time, she felt a soft undercurrent of joy woven beneath her fear, a sense of belonging she hadn't expected. "Let's get to work." He gestured toward a cluster of trees that resembled the giants of the woods, their arms outstretched, bowing gracefully beneath the weight of snow. "Start there. I'll show you how to chop properly." With a nod, Rosa stepped toward the task ahead, a deep-seated determination anchoring her. As Sebastian guided her through the motions, she felt her confidence swell, gradually building with each successful strike of the axe against the wood. The rhythmic sound of the blade biting into the bark became a mantra, echoing in her ears, drowning out memories of anguish. "Good, that's it." Sebastian's encouragement sparked a light in her eyes, a flickering flame that enveloped her heart with warmth. Rosa found herself smiling, each swing bringing her closer to a renewed sense of self. Her body ached, but each weary muscle felt like a badge of honor. The sweet taste of triumph lurked at the edges, tempting her to delve deeper into this new beginning. As they finished gathering firewood, the sun sank low, casting a soft golden light over the mountains. Exhausted but exhilarated, Rosa took a moment to relish in the day's labor, to breathe in the fresh mountain air that carried promises of freedom. "We'll make a survivor out of you yet," Sebastian said, pride thick in his tone. Rosa chuckled, though his words struck a deeper chord. It was a promise made between them, not just of survival, but a way to reclaim dignity, hope, and purpose. "You've already made me feel like one." He turned to her, their eyes locking for a heartbeat longer, an unspoken understanding passing between them. This was the beginning of their time together, a shared journey toward healing, held within the rustic arms of the Colorado mountains, steadily warming against the silhouette of the sky. As they made their way back to the cabin, Rosa felt the weight of the world transforming, each step molding a stronger version of herself along the rocky path. The cabin stood resolute against the twilight, an ever-present reminder that they were both stuck to it, neither running, but instead bending forward hand in hand toward the horizon, ready to face whatever came next. As days melted into weeks, the surrounding Colorado wilderness transformed its starkness into familiar beauty for Rosa and Sebastian. Each dawn, wrapped in the crisp bite of early spring, marked a new beginning, a chance for Rosa to build herself anew from the fragments of her past. The cabin had become more than just a shelter. It was a sanctuary where dreams of healing intertwined with the resolute strength of the mountains. Rosa found her rhythm quickly. With each sunrise, they embarked on new lessons and tasks carved from the earth around them. She learned to wield the axe with precision, the once clumsy swings transforming into confident strikes as the days turned into a chorus of morning light and rhythmic labor. The joy in each effort was not merely in the work itself, but in the knowledge that she was continually reclaiming pieces of herself, shaping her identity as surely as she shaped the timber they cut. On a particularly bright morning, Rosa found herself by the creek, where sunlight danced upon the rippling water. Sitting in the sun-drenched grass, she dipped her fingers into the cool stream, cherishing the way it invigorated her senses. The air was fragrant with the scent of wildflowers prickling the edges of the bank, a brilliant array of colors spilling forth as spring breathed life back into the mountains. "Rosa!" Sebastian called, his voice echoing against the rocks. "Can I have you for a moment?" She lowered her hand from the water, leaving behind the calming rush that momentarily grounded her. Standing, she brushed her skirt free of grass clippings as she made her way toward him. He stood a few paces up on the bank, eyes surveying the landscape. "What do you think?" he asked, gesturing toward a sapling struggling in the shadows of larger oaks. Rosa furrowed her brow, examining the young tree. "It seems to be fighting its way up," she replied slowly. "But it's dwarfed by the others. It needs more light." "Exactly. Nature has its own method of survival. They often fight through adversity to find their place." "I see a bit of you in that tree," he said, a grin breaking through his typically stoic demeanor. Rosa felt her heart lurch at his words, a blend of pride and vulnerability flooding her chest. "Me? Yes, you," he affirmed with a firmness that confounded her insecurities. "You've come so far, and I see that same strength in you, but every tree needs a little space to grow." A flurry of colors washed through her, a mix of embarrassment and warmth. She was unaccustomed to receiving such recognition, and yet here he was, offering validation that felt both foreign and liberating. "Can we help it? Prune some of the branches?" Sebastian lifted an eyebrow, revealing a hint of amusement. "You mean to say you want to play nurse for a tree?" "I want to see it thrive," she countered, determination weaving through the laugh in her voice. "If it can grow, then so can I." His grin only widened, his eyes sparkling with approval. "Then let's do it." Together they worked through the sunlight, pruning the excess branches, clearing debris, and ensuring the young sapling had unfettered access to the sun. With every cut of the shears, Rosa felt a weight lift from her own heart, savoring the act of caring for something beyond herself, nurturing life in the hope of cultivating strength. As the day wore on, they filled their hours with laughter and conversation, their companionship deepening through shared effort. Rosa began to open up to Sebastian, sharing snippets of her life prior to her arrival in the mountains, the joys punctuated by the agonies that relentlessly clawed at her spirit. He listened intently, offering wisdom born of experience with each revelation that slipped from her lips, moldable words reflecting their trust in one another. "Rosa," he said one evening as they prepared for dinner, the fire crackling in the hearth, "you've mentioned how you longed to ride a horse, didn't you?" "Yes," she said, her eyes widening in anticipation. "But I've never been on one. It feels so impossibly far away." "Let's change that," he replied decisively. "I have a horse. Her name is Pearl. Tomorrow I'll teach you how to ride." Excitement and apprehension tangled in her stomach. Could she manage it? Could she hold on? But the possibilities hovered above her like butterflies chasing the warmth of spring. "Really?" she squeaked, unable to contain her bubbling joy. "Absolutely," he said with a playful wink. "If we can conquer a tree, then surely we can conquer a horse." The next day was bright and clear, a gift from the sun as they ventured to the nearby pasture where Pearl grazed, a magnificent creature, gentle yet powerful, with a coat as white as the clouds that floated above. As they approached, Rosa marveled at her stature, the gentle huff of breath releasing pearly mist into the cool air. Sebastian steadied her as she approached Pearl, his hands guiding her to a point of connection. "Soft touch, Rosa," he instructed gently, demonstrating how to extend her hand to the horse, allowing the animal to sniff her before making any sudden moves. "She can feel your fears. You have to be calm." "Calm," she echoed, forcing herself to breathe easy as Pearl nuzzled her hand. The connection blossomed as the horse accepted her, allowing the slight tremble in Rosa's fingers to steady. There was something about that enormous, beautiful animal that soothed the frayed edges of her spirit, urging her to embrace confidence. With Sebastian's patient guidance, he helped her mount Pearl, a tentative journey that required both trust and balance. Rosa felt her heart pound painfully against her ribs as she found her place in the saddle, each shift of the horse a reminder of the power it possessed. Yet even the fear began to stitch itself tighter with excitement. "Now hold the reins lightly. Stay relaxed, just like you did with the tree," he coaxed as he led them forward. And soon they were both at ease, moving together under the blue sky. Can we go faster?" she asked breathlessly, her eyes sparkling with unrestrained thrill. "Just a little at first," Sebastian replied, nodding encouragingly. "And remember, keep her calm and trust your instincts." He gently urged Pearl into a gentle trot, and Rosa felt the crisp mountain air whip around her as if she were soaring. Laughter spilled from her lips as the rhythm matched the beating of her heart, the distant feeling of fear dissolving as exhilaration took flight. This was freedom. This was her right to reclaim her story. As hours melted like the afternoon light, they took turns riding, exploring the trails winding between the tall trees, each new path revealing the beauty of the untamed earth. It was exhilarating, whether she tumbled into fear or laughter, every obstacle reforming her sense of self like clay beneath warm hands, forging strength where once there was only uncertainty. Once the sun began to retreat beneath the peaks, Rosa dismounted, energy thrumming through her body like the pulse of a living thing. "I can't believe I did that," she exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. "I was flying," Sebastian laughed, pride etched across his jaw. "You've gained not only strength but also some skill. Maybe someday I can help you with your other chores," she teased, a glimmer of hope reflecting in her bright eyes. "Maybe," he replied thoughtfully, a smile behind the corners of his lips. "But right now, let's head back before the sun completely dips behind the mountains. I think we might have a storm coming." As they made their way back, they prepared for the evening ahead, chopping wood, checking supplies, and setting aside time to cook together. Rosa found comfort in the familiar routine, the warmth of companionship wrapping around them as they shared stories and laughter over the flames, exchanging lessons and the warmth of camaraderie that only true connection could forge. At one point, Sebastian shared tales of his time spent alone in the mountains, the reasons that had driven him into isolation. "I sought solace," he admitted quietly, "after losing everything that mattered to me." "Solace in solitude?" she questioned gently. He looked into the dancing fire. "At first, but solitude can turn into a prison if one allows it. It's the connection, like what we have, that breathes life back into the void." Something in her heart stirred at his honest admission. Sebastian wasn't just a guardian, he was a kindred spirit, one who shared the weight of loss and loneliness. Companionship was far more enriching than the hollow seasons they had both endured. As the fire crackled and the flames flickered in the shadows, Rosa realized that she had not merely come to live in the mountains. She had come to thrive among them, anchored by her bond with this incredible man. Beneath the twinkling stars, she felt a swell of appreciation. Here she had reclaimed her voice, her strength, and her spirit. "Do you think I can ever be free of my past?" she asked, vulnerability embedded within her question. Sebastian turned to her, sincere warmth lacing his expression. "Freedom is a choice, Rosa. It's about embracing your present, letting go without forgetting. Each day you choose to fight, to embrace your worth. It's a journey." And in that moment, Rosa felt a shift, a quiet acceptance of the pain, frustration, and sorrow she carried, transforming them into stepping stones rather than barriers. They were fragments of her foundation, ones that would ultimately allow her to rise. As they settled into the night, surrounded by tenacious tree trunks and the sweet scent of the wild spreading through the mountain air, Rosa's heart swelled with gratitude. Their journeys had intertwined, and she felt an invisible thread binding them both, a pact woven by resilience, trust, and the promise of hope. Here, under the tapestry of stars, she had found not just refuge, but a home within herself, anchored by a friendship that felt destined. As summer settled over the mountains, painting the landscape in a vibrant palette of greens and wildflowers, Rosa and Sebastian endeavored to cultivate not only their homestead, but also their burgeoning connection. The days stretched long, kissed by the sun, and the workload reflected the abundance of life around them. They immersed themselves in seasonal chores, and each shared task began to thread their lives together more intimately. Mornings arrived with a symphony of nature, the soft chirps of birds melding with the rustle of leaves in the warm breeze. Rosa awoke each day with a renewed sense of purpose, eager to embrace the sunlit hours. The rhythm of their life together settled comfortably within her, and with every passing moment, she felt herself becoming more entwined with the mountains, the plants, and, most importantly, Sebastian. "Let's check on the garden," he proposed one bright morning, slinging a basket over his shoulder. "There's no telling what we might have grown since yesterday." Together they strolled through the rows of flourishing vegetables, a realm of nourishment and hope. Pristine greens crowded the soil, while splashes of bright orange and red signified the fruits of their labor. Rosa squatted down beside the bright yellow squash, fingers brushing over the tendrils that wrapped around each other, a delicate reminder that growth often required a little support. "The garden thrives with love and attention," she remarked, glancing up to meet Sebastian's eyes. "Just like everything else we nurture." He knelt beside her, his gaze thoughtful as he surveyed the plants. "You know, this garden is just a reflection of you. The way you nurture these plants proves your strength, even if you sometimes don't see it." Rosa smiled, feeling warmth cascade over her. "Thank you, but I think I'm still learning how to truly embrace that strength. It feels fragile, like the sprouts that could be easily uprooted." "Strength is a journey, Clara," he replied, his voice a soothing balm. "It's not always about being unyielding. Sometimes it's about bending and adapting, just like those plants. They struggle to grow through tough weather, and yet they persist." Encouraged by his words, Rosa continued to tend to the garden, finding joy in the sweat and labor, each action solidifying the bond between them. As they worked side by side, their hands brushing against one another on occasion, the air thickened with an unspoken understanding, a connection that felt both intuitive and undeniable. After their morning in the garden, they took time to fish along the creek that curled through the wooded valley nearby. The sun shimmered across the water's surface like diamonds, and Rosa felt invigorated, the freedom of summer washing over them. With Sebastian by her side, laughter echoed across the rocky banks as they joked and shared stories. "Do you remember your first fishing trip?" Sebastian teased, his laughter warm and infectious. "You were terrified of the fish flopping around." Rosa giggled, recalling the chaotic scene from early days at the cabin. "Yes, I nearly dropped the pole into the water when that little trout wriggled free. I thought it was going to jump right into my lap." "I thought you'd scare it off with all your shrieking," he teased, giving her a playful nudge. "But look at you now, expertly reeling in those fish." The soft sound of water splashing melded with their laughter, and the joy they found in each other's company fed a deep-rooted warmth in her chest. As they cast their lines into the creek, the world around them fell into a comfortable silence. Somewhere deep within, Rosa felt a seedling of happiness sprouting, hoping to flourish against the backdrop of their shared adventure. As they fished, an unexpected hush fell over the landscape. Turning to Sebastian, she noticed a contemplative look in his eyes. "What's on your mind?" she asked gently. His brow furrowed as he cast a line into the water. "I've been reflecting on what life was like before all of this," he admitted, the weight of memories weighing heavily in his tone. "Life was different. It was lonely." "Lonely how?" Rosa pressed, her curiosity piquing. "Before the mountains, I was consumed by grief," he confessed. "I wandered, aimless, living in a void. The solitude was both a refuge and a prison. I lost everything: family, purpose, joy." His voice cracked slightly, and Rosa felt a pang of empathy as he spoke. "I can't imagine," she whispered, her heart aching for him. "How did you find your way out?" "Coming here. It felt like stepping onto the precipice of hope," Sebastian continued, his gaze distant yet earnest. "This place has a way of redefining life. The mountains spoke to me, calling me back to existence. I learned to work, to fight, to discover what it means to feel alive again." Rosa watched as he spoke, the profound intensity in his eyes revealing a vulnerability she hadn't fully grasped before. "And now?" she pressed gently. "Now I feel alive. The connection I've formed with you has made me realize how precious relationships can be," he revealed. "You've redefined companionship for me. I didn't know I needed that until you arrived." A rush of warmth surged through Rosa, and she felt her heart leap in response to his words. "I'm grateful for this too. You've shown me there is beauty in vulnerability and strength in connection," she replied softly. "Together we can face it all, our pasts, our pains. We can heal." His voice was sincere, enveloping her like a warm embrace. The words lingered in the air, mingling with the scent of the surrounding woods. In that moment of shared vulnerability, they both felt a shift, a turning point resonating deep within, as if the essence of the mountains themselves blessed their connection. As summer matured into its fullness, the days grew hotter, and the sunlight streamed into the cabin with an affectionate warmth. On particularly long days filled with work, they would find solace in the simplicity of evening routines together. Dinners were shared over flickering candles and laughter, where they regaled each other with tales of their pasts. One evening, after a freshly prepared meal of grilled fish and wild greens, they settled outside beneath the blanket of stars. The sky above twinkled like diamonds scattered across a dark blue canvas, illuminating their surroundings and casting gentle reflections on their thoughts. "Do you ever think about the life we're building here?" Rosa asked, a hint of a smile dancing on her lips. "Every day," Sebastian replied. "We're crafting our destiny, and I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else." "Not even a family?" Rosa probed tentatively, knowing the sense of loss that lingered behind his eyes. His brow furrowed for a moment, pondering. "You mean starting a family of our own?" he asked quietly. "I have thought about it, but at the same time, there's a fear lingering, a fear of losing again. But it's a hope I cannot ignore. Once if you invest in something truly meaningful, you risk losing it," she replied, her voice steady. "But we can build something beautiful together, Sebastian. We can be the heads of a family forged from love, resilience, and the bond that has grown between us. I fear each decision is like facing the unknown. Yet with you, it feels right," he admitted, turning away to gaze at the stars. "It still terrifies me. What happens if we aren't strong enough to weather that storm? I believe in the strength we are building together. We can nurture a family filled with love, joy, and compassion. We can share in the burdens of the past, but allow them to forge our path forward." He turned back to her, his eyes glistening with unvoiced emotion. "It sounds beautiful, yet so daunting." "Daunting is where growth happens," Rosa smiled softly. "I'm ready for whatever comes next. I have no more room for fear. I want a life filled with warmth and laughter, and I want it with you." As the stars blinked above them, they both felt an electric current pass between them, binding their fates even tighter than before. In that twilight moment, amid the flickering candlelight, the air thick with promise, they exchanged glances that held the weight of the world. Together, they could face anything. Days turned into weeks, and with each sunrise, anticipation swelled in their hearts. The unfolding promise of their shared dreams began to take shape. A plot of land they tended to, a garden of relationships and hopes. The summer heat gave way to the crispness of autumn, and with it, they found themselves gathering produce from the earth, preparing for the changing seasons. One evening, while harvesting potatoes late in the day, Rosa's heart pounded as she realized how intertwined their lives had become. "Can you feel it?" she asked, catching Sebastian's attention as they stood amidst the vibrant fallen leaves. "Feel what?" he questioned, his brow furrowing gently in curiosity. "It's all coming together," she remarked, her breath catching with excitement. "The garden, the cabin, us. It feels complete, like we are building a tapestry of a life we've always wanted." "It's remarkable," he smiled back, pride radiating from him. "And it's a testament to what we've created together." In that moment, Rosa felt the promise of the future stretch out before her, like a wide-open field, full of endless possibilities. Every decision they made, every burden they lifted, solidified a bond that would withstand the trials of life. Standing amidst the falling leaves, she took a deep breath, emboldened by the stirring of hope inside her. "Let's keep moving forward, Sebastian. I believe we can build a family, a life that thrives. Let's embrace whatever comes next together. And I will be with you every step of the way," he replied, reaching for her hand, intertwining their fingers. As day faded into night, the promise of a brighter future awaited them, nestled in the warm embrace of twilight. With hearts full of love and courage, Rosa and Sebastian stepped boldly into the next chapter of their lives, ready to face whatever the world had in store, together. As autumn deepened around the cabin, the vibrant colors transformed into the muted browns and grays of approaching winter. Each day became shorter, and the once bustling sounds of wildlife softened into an eerie stillness that blanketed the mountains. In their hard-won sanctuary, Rosa and Sebastian thrived, yet an undercurrent of tension shaped each moment, growing heavier with every passing day. "Can you feel it?" Rosa asked one evening as they huddled by the warm glow of the fire. The flickering flames painted shadows on the log walls, but an unease lingered in the space between them. "Feel what?" Sebastian looked up from his wood carving, furrowing his brow in concern. "The tension out there in the world. I feel like it's creeping closer," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Out there is nothing we can't handle together," he reassured her, his eyes reflecting the firelight like embers. "We've built our life here away from those who don't understand us. But what if they never accept us?" Her heart ached at the thought. What if they tried to take this away? His hand found hers, fingers entwining, grounding her. "We fight for what we have, Rosa. We won't allow others' fears to dictate our happiness." His words provided a temporary balm, but the unease gnawed at her, becoming a constant presence that tainted even their happiest moments. The whispers from town seeped in through the cracks of their peaceful existence. They felt the weight of judgment in the air, heavy and suffocating. Weeks passed, and with the onset of winter, the news from town took a darker turn. The harvest was done, but the scent of trouble lingered like smoke from the embers. Rumors began to swirl, the kind that twisted hope into doubt. One chaotic evening, there was a knock at the door, its sharp sound reverberating through the cabin. "Sir?" a voice called out, deep and authoritative. Rosa's heart skipped as she and Sebastian exchanged worried glances. Sebastian opened the door to find Jared, the lawman. His expression was serious, his hat tipped low to shade his eyes. "Evening, folks. I came to talk." "What's wrong?" Rosa felt her stomach twist. She had learned that Jared would only come with trouble. "Look, there are folks in town who aren't pleased with how you're living out here," Jared started, stepping inside, exuding an air that made the cozy cabin feel like an interrogation room. "What are they saying?" Sebastian asked, crossing his arms protectively over his chest. "There are whispers that you're encroaching on territory you don't belong to. Some folks are threatening to petition for your eviction," Jared reported, the gravity of his message sinking in. Rosa's heart plummeted. "Eviction? This is our home. We have rights here." I know, Jared insisted, raising his hands in an attempt to calm her. "But the town doesn't see it that way. Fear and distrust have a way of twisting rational thought. They don't understand the choices you've made. Sebastian stepped forward, emboldened. We're not breaking any laws. We've built this life ourselves. Jared nodded, his eyes sympathetic but firm. I believe that, but we both know how people can rally together out of fear. It would be wise to prepare, gather those who support you, and stay vigilant. If they see weakness, they will pounce. As Jared left, Rosa felt a rush of panic and anger. This can't be happening. We will not let them take this away from us. This is our home. Sebastian turned to her, determination etched in his features. We'll handle this together. There are people who've known us long enough to understand our journey. Friends who will stand by us. They can't dismantle what we've fought so hard to create. The tension that had been building in the weeks prior ignited into a fierce resolve. They couldn't allow the opinions of those who didn't understand them to dictate their fate. As winter approached, the first dusting of snow transformed the mountains, cloaking the world in a silence that felt both peaceful and foreboding. The cold hung heavily, but within the walls of their cabin, a fire burned brightly, flickering with hope as they reached out to their allies within the community. Friends from neighboring farms began to trickle in to offer their support. Each visit filled the cabin with warmth, laughter, and heartfelt assurances that bolstered Rosa and Sebastian's spirits. They shared stories and strengthened connections, uniting against the feelings of isolation intruding on their lives. One starlit night, as the world outside lay frozen in a blanket of snow, Rosa and Sebastian sat together, bathed in the soft glow of a lantern. The comforting crackle of the fire provided a familiar soundtrack to their conversation. "Do you think we have enough support?" Rosa asked, a flicker of doubt still lingering in her heart. "We have more than enough," Sebastian replied confidently. "We've created a foundation built on love, hard work, and truth. We've earned the respect of those who matter." The months passed, and within the encompassing snow, their hopes began to crystallize. Friends came to their aid, organizing a meeting to confront the issues at stake and address the growing unease within the town. Each person who rallied around them was a testament to the life they created, embodied strength through community. As the night of the meeting approached, Rosa found herself pacing the cabin, her nerves on edge. What if it doesn't go well? What if they don't see us for who we are? Sebastian approached her, his touch grounding her. Whatever happens, remember that we've made a life here together. Stand proud and speak your truth. We've fought for this place. It's worth defending. The evening of the meeting arrived, and anxiety hung heavily over the gathering. As Rosa and Sebastian entered the town hall, the air buzzed with apprehension, the tension palpable. Familiar faces from town were scattered amongst the crowd. Some wore stern expressions while others looked curious. Jared stood at the podium, his presence a stabilizing force as he unveiled the topic. With every word, Rosa felt the energy shift in the room. "We gather tonight to address the concerns regarding the newcomers in our community, the couple who have built a life in the mountains." As murmurs swept through the crowd, Rosa felt a swell of strength course through her. The moment had arrived. It was time to fight for all they had built. With Sebastian beside her, she stepped forward, heart racing. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We understand your concerns. We came here seeking a life built from love and resilience, not to become a threat. We're simply pursuing our dreams." Onlookers exchanged skeptical glances but remained silent. Rosa pushed onward, passion spilling from her. "This community stands united in what we value. That doesn't need to exclude anyone, but instead enriches the lives of all. We offer support, friendship, and the spirit of cooperation." As she spoke, echoes of agreement began to resonate. One voice spoke up among the crowd, a familiar neighbor who had once been skeptical, but had since grown to respect their determination. "They've proven their worth. They've worked hard for what they have, and I stand with them." The tide in the room began to shift as more voices emerged in solidarity. People who had previously only whispered judgment now stepped forth, sharing their own stories of struggles that paralleled Rosa and Sebastian's journey. The warmth of acceptance washed over her, filling her with renewed hope. By the end of the meeting, a consensus emerged. They would come together, town and settlers alike, to build a stronger, more inclusive community. As another voice rang out, "We won't let fear dictate our future." The crowd erupted in agreement, united against the discord that had threatened to pull them apart. As Rosa and Sebastian left the town hall hand in hand, the frost of winter seemed a little less daunting, and the path forward glimmered with possibility. Together they could face anything. In the weeks following the town hall meeting, Rosa and Sebastian felt a palpable shift in their lives. The icy grip of winter still wrapped around the mountains, but the community's acceptance ignited warmth in their hearts. Familiar faces greeted them with nods of camaraderie. Voices that once whispered doubt were now murmuring support as they passed in the market. One bright morning, beneath a clear blue sky, the couple ventured into town to gather supplies, basking in the sense of belonging that seemed to strengthen with each passing day. The air was crisp as they strolled through the snowy streets, and the thrill of being part of something greater rippled through them. "Look at that!" Sebastian pointed to a freshly cut wooden sign at the cafe. "They've put up the sign for the next town festival. Everyone's coming together." Rosa smiled, her breath visible in the cold air. "We should participate. Maybe share our story. It's a chance to connect with more people," she suggested, her eyes shining with excitement. "I'd love that," he replied. "It's time we celebrate what we've built together." The snowy days turned to vibrant preparations for the festival, and the community rallied around each other with newfound enthusiasm. Laughter filled the air as families gathered, decorating the town square and building excitement for the event. One afternoon, while they were hanging garlands of evergreen in the square, Clara approached them, her expression softened by the warmth of the gathering. "I came to apologize for my behavior before," she said, sincerity in her eyes. "I didn't understand what you were trying to achieve. I see it now." "Thank you, Clara," Rosa replied, cautious optimism rising within her. "We know it can be hard to see things from a different perspective." "I'd like to help with the festival," Clara offered, her voice earnest. "I think it would be nice to all come together." "That sounds great," Sebastian said, extending a welcoming hand. "We could use all the help we can get." As preparations continued, the festival day dawned with a radiant golden sun hanging low in the sky. People flocked to the square, adorned in their winter best, the air filled with the sweet scent of fresh-baked bread and the warm aroma of spiced cider. Laughter rang out as children ran about, playing in the snow, building snowmen with bright scarves and hats. Rosa stood nearby, her heart swelling with joy. She looked at Sebastian, who was already helping set up a stall to showcase their homemade preserves and pickles, made from the summer's harvest. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, a hint of nervousness creeping back into her voice. "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Just wait until they taste what we've prepared." As they set up the booth, Rosa's heart fluttered with a mix of excitement and anxiety. People began to gather, intrigued by the vibrant jars filled with color and flavor. They sampled the goods, and the sounds of approval filled the air, igniting a growing sense of pride in Rosa. Children giggled as they dashed by, trailing laughter like ribbons in the air. Conversations buzzed around her as community members welcomed one another, stories shared over hearty meals and shared experiences. Then, as the afternoon sun dipped lower, Jared climbed up onto an improvised platform at the center of the square, signaling for everyone's attention. The crowd hushed, and a sense of anticipation rippled through the gathering. "Thank you all for coming out today. We've got a lot to celebrate," he began, allowing a smile to spread across his face. "This year has brought us challenges, but together, we found a way to honor our differences and strengthen our bonds." Applause erupted as Jared continued to speak, recognizing the efforts made by everyone to embrace inclusivity. "Let's welcome our newcomers, Rosa and Sebastian, who have shown us the true meaning of resilience and community." Cheers broke out as the crowd turned towards them. Rosa glanced at Sebastian, a whirlwind of emotions dancing in both their eyes. They stepped forward, hand in hand, hearts pounding with gratitude and love. "Thank you," Rosa called out, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We are grateful for your support. It means so much to us to be part of this community, something we've longed for since we arrived." Sebastian added, "Together we can create a future filled with purpose and cooperation. We're excited to contribute to this wonderful place." The crowd responded with applause and cheers, voices raised in a chorus of unity. Laughter and joy filled the air, merging into a symphony of celebration as they shared a collective moment of connection and hope. As the evening drew near, lanterns began to twinkle like stars, casting a warm glow across the square. The festival flourished with music, dancing, and plenty of storytelling, each tale weaving together the fabric of the community. Amidst the festivities, Rosa and Sebastian found themselves surrounded by friends old and new. With each face that approached them, expressions of acceptance and warmth flooded their hearts. It was a night of victory, a celebration of resilience that bound them together. As the moon rose high, casting its silvery glow across the revelry, Rosa and Sebastian knew they had not only fought hard for their place, but had also brought others along for the journey. They embraced the promise of what lay ahead, hand in hand, ready to face whatever life brought together, no longer just survivors, but thriving members of a community that embraced them for who they were. In that moment, under the stars, they felt a sense of belonging carved out of love, and they knew that together they could face anything.